EdYoda, the end of your job search and the beginning of your dream career. EdYoda's live sessions are taught by industry experts, giving you hands-on experience and practical knowledge with real projects, not just degrees. EdYoda's industry-recognized certifications will help you stand out in the job market. And that's not all. With EdYoda's exclusive job board featuring 500+ companies, finding your dream job has never been easier. Say goodbye to endless job searching and hello to your dream career with EdYoda. Join EdYoda's student community today and start building your dream career.
Starting now. Slide. I see your slide.
Hello everyone and good evening. Welcome to the live resume building workshop. My name is Aisha and in this session, you're going to learn everything about resume. From understanding what a resume is to creating a perfect resume. Now, resumes. One of the crucial things that an employer or a recruiter looks at when you send out your resume is how well you have put in the information there, right? So it is extremely important on the kind of information you put into your resume. Your resume has the power to transform your career or to break your career. So in this session, I'm going to tell you all about resumes and how you can create a perfect resume to impress your employers. So without wasting time or without further ado, let's look at our agenda for today's session. What are we going to discuss in today's session? And I want you guys to note down whatever you think is important in this session. And we're going to also have a live resume making session or a segment in the end so that you guys can practice along with me. So first, I'm going to tell you about resumes and its importance. Then we're going to look at the components of a resume. What comes under the resume, or what are the subsections, or what are the subtopics in a resume. Then I'm going to tell you the difference between a resume and a CV. Is there a difference really? Let's find out. So stick till the end of this session. And like I mentioned, in the end of this session, you will have a segment where I will be typing out a resume live in front of you. And I've also shared the link for this template in the description so that you guys can practice along with me. Let's move ahead. So what is a resume and why is it important? I know resume making or writing a resume is not a very exciting task. It requires a lot of thinking and you have to list down your achievements and whatever you have done in your life till now. But I'm here to make it easy for you guys today. So first, let's start with what a resume is and why it's important. So a resume is a formal document which summarizes your education, your work experience, and your skills. Not just these three factors, it has a lot more to it, but the summary of it is, in short, it includes your details regarding your education, work experience, skills, right? So the first thing that needs to pop up in your head when you hear the word resume should be summary, all right? So summary is, resume means summary. Summary of what? Summary of your relevant education or academic qualification, your work experience, your skills, etc. So the purpose of a resume is to provide the employers with a quick overview of your skills and experiences, right? Your employer will not have the time to go through each and every word you put into your resume. Trust me, nobody likes to go through a long resume. It's just too boring and nobody will have the time to do it, right? So you have Very few seconds. An average employer will have around 15 to 20 seconds to scan through a resume, and you have that time just to give the impression in front of your employer that, hey, I'm the best candidate, I'm the perfect fit for this role, right? So you need to create your resume in such a way that it builds this impression in front of your employer that you are a great candidate for this role, right? For that, you need to prepare ahead when you submit your job application. And one thing you need to keep in mind when you are preparing your resume is that all your information must be organized, right? If your information does not seem relevant to the employer, or if it is not appealing to the employer, chances are your resume is going to get rejected, right? So let's not go there. Let's not make that happen for ourselves. Next point is your resume tells your strongest skills and your accomplishments. Now, when you hear the word resume, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? You might be thinking of a white page with the word resume, a lot of information on it. Well, resumes are not just that. Instead of looking at resumes as just a document with a lot of information, think of resumes as a very powerful marketing tool. It must speak for itself. Your resume should market your skills and your accomplishments. What kind of a person are you? What are your qualifications? What are the experiences you have had in your career so far? So that is how resume helps to market what kind of a person you are and your skills to the potential employers or your recruiters. Now, resumes grab the attention of potential employers. How do they do that? If you want to increase your chances of getting your resume shortlisted, there is one tip I'm going to give you right now. Focus on the top half of your resume. Now, I've seen a lot of resumes where, the content is overall, it's just scattered all over the place. But if you are aiming at that, dream job or, that particular position in a company, if you want to get that job, organize the most relevant, most important information on the top half of your resume. So your resume has two parts, the top half and the bottom half. We learned or we understood that the employers or the recruiters will just take maximum 15 seconds to scan through a resume. So how many words or what are the key information that they could gather in this short time, right? So that is why I'm telling you to organize your information on the top half of your resume. Make sure you use keywords. This is my next important tip for you. Always read the job description. Note down what are the keywords in the job description. What are keywords, by the way? Keywords are words or short phrases that you pick out from your job description and sprinkle it around like fairy dust in your resume. But you need to be using this wisely. You should be able to understand where to use these keywords. Otherwise, it's just gonna not do its job. All right. We'll talk more about using keywords when I actually build a resume right in front of you. Now, let us look at the components of a resume, or what are the topics or subtopics that a resume contains. So on the first point, we have contact details. Just picturize a resume right now. So your resume is right in front of you, and on the top half or on the top center of your resume, you will have the contact detail, which means your first name, your last name, your address, your phone number, and your email. All right. Your email should be very professional. You cannot use any, fancy emails or, just phone numbers instead of emails. Now, the second section, that is the most or one of the most important segments in a resume, that is your education or your academic qualification. Under this, you will be mentioning only your highest degree or highest certification or highest course that you have done. Let's say I have completed my master's in computer science. okay, or if I've done a master's in computer application. So that will be the highest degree I will be mentioning under education section. Now, how will I be mentioning, or what are the things that I will be mentioning under the education section? Firstly, masters of computer application. Then I will be giving the name of my college or my university, the place, my CGPA. I could also mention my relevant coursework, the courses that I have adopted when I was studying this program. Next, let's look at work experience. This is the work experience section, the third most important part of your resume. Remember, this is the top half of the resume I'm talking about. We learned that we have a top half of the resume and bottom half. So we are aiming for the top half first. Now, in work experience section, you will be mentioning your relevant work experience in the reverse chronological order. Now, what do I mean by reverse chronological order? You will be mentioning your most recent work experience first, then followed by the second most recent, third most recent, so on. All right. So how do you do that? First, you'll be giving your designation. Let's say I am working as a web developer. I'm working as a web developer in XYZ company located in Delhi. Okay. And after that, I will be putting the time period of the time I've been working there. Now, I'll tell you more about it. Don't worry. Let's move on to the next segment, that is academic project. Now, this is one of the fields that is, going to be very, very, very beneficial, very crucial for freshers. If any freshers, if you guys are watching this, this is the place, or this is the field where you can shine. If you do not have work experience, academic project is your way to go. This is where you can prove that you have the expertise in this necessary field. So under academic projects, you will be mentioning all the relevant projects that you have done in your college in either semesters. All right. So you will be mentioning the thesis. You can mention the thesis. You can mention any projects which you have taken part in, and you won an award for that, or it's been recognized by the college or by people. So you will be mentioning the academic projects, under which you will mention the title for the project. You will mention the team size and also a small description of what the project is about. Right? It is important to give some point, or a small idea on what you have done in your academic project, right? Moving on to the fifth component or fifth section in a resume, that is your skill. What are skills? Skills are your abilities. What kind of things are you capable of doing, right? We have two kinds of skills: technical skills and your non-technical skills. So let me first talk about technical skills. So your technical skills are what is gained from what you have learned, what you have practiced. Okay. So your technical skills could showcase your expertise in certain technical fields, or certain software or technologies. When I talk about non-technical skills, what comes under non-technical skills? You can include communication skills, you can include decision-making skills, leadership quality. All these are examples for non-technical skills. Moving on to awards and achievements. Now, this is one segment or one section where a lot of us, have a hard time figuring what the achievements are, or what are my awards and achievements. So just think about it for some time. Think if you have, achieved something in your, work, in your organization, or, maybe during your college. If you do not have awards and achievements, and if you are a fresher, it's fine, you can skip it. But the purpose of keeping this section is to show the employer or your recruiter that, hey, I have certain areas in which I have proven my skills, and I have I have become successful in those fields. And here is the proof for that, right? That is why we have the awards and achievements section. Coming to extracurricular activities section. Now, I cannot stress how important this is. Some resumes will not have extracurricular activities, but if you're a fresher, or if you're experienced person. I would highly recommend you guys to add this or include this in your resume. Why? Because it gives the impression to your employer or your recruiter that this is a well-rounded person. This is a very proactive person. You're not just good in studies or academics, but also this he or she is active in other areas as well. All right. Okay. Now, let me go back to the question that I first asked. Is there a difference between a resume and a CV? Now, this has been a confusing term. We've been using the term resume and CV synonymously, at least some of us. But is there really a difference between a resume and a CV? The answer is yes. CVs and resumes are different and they serve different purposes. All right. So the first important difference or the first major difference between a CV and a resume is that a resume is a summary. We learned that when we hear the word resume, the word summary should come into our mind, right? So a resume is a summary of our education, our most relevant work experience, skills, extracurricular activities, certifications, etc. Whereas a CV, what is a CV? CV is the abbreviation for curriculum vitae. CV is a detailed description about your career, your educational background, your skills, your awards, achievements, your publications, whatever you have published so far, the conferences you have attended. It includes everything. That is why it is called curriculum vitae. Curriculum vitae is a Latin term which means one's course of life, which basically means whatever you have done in your life, you are mentioning it in your CV. So that is the key difference between a resume and a CV. Let me just repeat it once again. Resume is a crisp document. It is a very brief, it's a summary of all your skills, your education, your experience, your work experience. Whereas a CV is a detailed document containing all the information in detail. All right. So resume, summary, CV, detailed. All right. That is the easy way to remember that. Next main point is a standard resume can be of 1 to 2 pages, while a CV can extend up to 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, even 8 to 10 pages, depending on your experience. Now, it is always recommended that if you're a fresher, you need to stick to a 1 page format for your resume. All right, because you do not have a lot of experience, you do not have a lot of work experience, and a lot of other information to put in, right? So that is why it is always best to focus on a single page document for your resume. Now, in your CV, why does a CV extend up to 3 to 4 pages, guys? The reason why a CV can extend up to 3 to 4 pages is pretty obvious, because we learned that CVs are detailed and resumes are a summary, right? So CVs can increase, or the length of a CV can increase depending on the work experience or any information that you add to it. Next point is, resumes can be customized according to the job description or the company or organization that you are applying for, right? Whereas information remains more or less the same in a CV. Don't you guys think? So a resume, you are tailoring your resume according to the company you are applying for. Like, you read the job description and make changes into your resume and then send it out. Whereas in a CV, information is more or less the same. It has all the achievements, skills, and all your skill sets and awards that you've achieved so far. There is nothing to change in that. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So resumes will be customized or can be customized according to the job description. So you will not be sending the same resume for every job. If I'm applying for the job of a data scientist, I will not be using the same resume that I used for the job of, let's say, a software engineer or like a software developer, right? So I will develop or I will customize or tailor my resume depending on the jobs. Whereas I cannot do that for a CV, because In CV, I have written down everything. Those are mostly, facts. I cannot do anything to change that. All right. Now let's take a look at a sample resume and a sample CV. So as you can see, just a minute. Yeah. As you can see from this, there is a major difference just in the way information is presented, right? You can see, the resume with a lot of lines, bullet points and subsection or subheadings, whereas a CV is in a different format totally, right? The way the information is organized or it's aligned, it's completely different. Just by looking at it, we can understand it. So when we take a closer look at the CV, I want you all to look at sample resume here with me. We can see that we have the contact information, which is the first component of the resume. We have the name, first name and last name, the address, the phone, and the email. Coming to the second component, that is the education or your academic section. You have the name of the university, the highest degree. What's the highest degree here? Bachelor of Engineering. And you have, all these relevant coursework, the CGPA, and all of that. And an important thing you need to keep in mind is to mention the time period of your course, or not just your course, you mention the time period for each and every section, right? So here the course is still ongoing and it is expected to be completed in May 2019. All right, now let's look at the work experience section, the third most important section. So in the work experience section, you have the name of, or you have the designation, data analyst intern, then you have the name of the company, the place, the time period in which this person has worked in this company. Here it is given from June 2017 to September 2017. Right. Now, let me tell you one important thing when it comes to writing your work experience section. Whenever you are writing your work experience section, always make it a habit to put bullet points, right? Nobody wants to read paragraphs. Nobody will read if you write paragraphs about your responsibilities at work, right? So always put bullet points and give an outline, just a brief about what you have done in that role. Here we can see, let me just read out the first point. Build Tableau dashboard to visualize core business KPIs, saving 10 hours per week of manual reporting work, right? So the language also plays a major role. So the way you convey your message also plays importance. Now, this is the top half of your resume. I told you, if you want to grab the attention in just 15 to 10 or 10 to 15 seconds, this is the best way. Organize your information, all the important and relevant information on the top half. Now, from the contact section to the work experience section or even the university project section, this can be considered as the top half. So always make sure to focus on the top half. That doesn't mean that you should not focus on the bottom half. Bottom half is also important, but your work experience and education, these sections or these segments tell about what kind of a professional you are, or tells more about your work, your background. That is why I'm focusing on the top half. Now let's look at the university project section. Here you have the title of the project that you have built. Again, if you look at the right, if you follow my cursor, you can see the time period, that was Feb 2017. And again, everything is mentioned in bullet points, which is something I really love about this resume. If it is, organized in, a bullet point manner, it is just so much easier to read and, you can grab the attention of anyone. So here the person says designed and implemented movie recommendation application in 4% team using Python in 3-day hackathon. So all these are information that tells something about the project that you mentioned. Right. Now coming to activities, in this section, the person has mentioned activities. So, he's mentioned head of events in resume worded finance society. Again, you can see the time period, the place. Then moving on to the final section here in this resume, we have additional. What are additional? What does additional contain? Additional contains technical skills, your languages, whatever you are familiar with, which are additional to whatever is mentioned, right? So in your technical skills, you can mention all the skills that you are good at, the areas in which you are really, really good at. All right. Now, let's look at the CV, for example, and compare it with this. So in this CV, what can you see here? In the CV, you can find that the name of the person is given, but it's not on the top center like the resume, right? So you can see the designation, Kelly Professor, Douglas Kelly Professor of English, and the address is given, towards the left hand side. Then LinkedIn and Twitter account is given, then phone, email, just the template or the layout itself is completely different from that of a resume. Now, one thing you can observe if you look at the screen here is that proactive lecturer and researcher with 10 plus years of experience teaching courses on so on and so forth, right? So he's given a, objective, kind of what kind of a person this person is, right? That is what is mentioned here. So you do not see that in a resume. Why? Because resume is the summary. Resume contains only facts. Resume is factual. Whereas a CV stands out for itself. You have some liberty to, express yourself in it. Now, looking at the education section here, what can you see here? The way the information is organized itself is completely different here. So you can see that the year is mentioned here, the name of the university, the department is mentioned, the thesis title is mentioned here, which is too much for your resume, which is forbidden for resume. Then you have the thesis supervisor's name. So see, that is what is meant by being detailed. Be as detailed as possible in your CV. Okay. Now coming to professional appointments, what does this mean? It is similar to work experience. Now coming to professional appointments, you can find that the person is a professor of English. He worked at University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and he's given a small description of what he's done in this role, right? Taught a total of 18 undergraduate, 9 postgraduate courses, so on. Then he's worked as professor assistant of English at University of Chicago, and again a one sentence or two sentence about his role. Then he's mentioned the books that he's written or he's contributed to. So all these are factors that distinguishes a CV from a resume. I'll tell you one more interesting thing to note. Resumes are mostly used for jobs, to get a job. You send your resumes for your potential to your potential employers or your recruiters. Some recruiters or some companies do ask for a resume as well as a CV. But a CV is a document which is very detailed, and because of which it is not used that often. Or, for example, an example of using a CV is maybe if I am interested in pursuing a research, or if I want to go do a doctor's or a PhD, my university will be asking me to send a CV. Okay, that is one main example. Resume is mainly targeting jobs. And CVs also target jobs. However, since it is more elaborate and detailed, it is not used as often as CV or as resume. Right. Now let's look at some of the features of a good resume. The first point is that you need to follow a reverse chronological order. Let me just go back and show you guys the resume here. So what does reverse chronological order mean? Arranging the most recent and relevant information on the top, then followed by the second most relevant or recent, then the third, and so on. Right? So here, if you look at it, you can find that information. If you look at the time period here, you can see that the first work experience or the first job as a data analyst intern was from June 2017 to September 2017. Then the next experience is from June 2016 to September 2016, which means 1 year before that. I hope you understand. So not just your work experience, but you need to mention reverse, or you need to use reverse chronological fashion in all the sections, even for education section. Now, let's say if you want to add your 12th, education details, or if I've done a master's and I want to add my bachelor's information, I will be adding it according to the reverse chronological fashion, right? Now, next is to summarize relevant information such as education, work experience, awards, skills, etc. in bullet points. I already told you about this point. You need to mention it in bullet points. Why? Because then only you can get or you can grab the attention of your of anyone who's reading your CV or resume, right? If I'm applying for the role of a web developer and I'm just going on and on, I'm giving sentences or paragraphs which has really nothing to do with my background. It just doesn't convince me to hire this candidate. So make sure that you are mentioning relevant examples or relevant experiences or skills related or relevant to your job or the opening that you are applying for. Next is include internships, academic projects. What do I mean by this? Especially if you're a fresher, this is something you can, use when it comes to writing your resume. If you do not have a lot of experience, include all the internships you have done, which has something to do with your background, right? This is the best way to show that you are a very active student. You are someone, who is willing to learn more, by doing internships and academic projects. Next is, it looks very simple, but it is one of the crucial details of a resume, which is sticking to a simple format. What do I mean by this? Simple format means your resume should be readable, it must look professional, and it should not have any fancy details in it. I've seen resumes with fancy pictures, selfies, and a lot of colors, a lot of tables, and it just looks really really messy, right? And that is something that employers or recruiters doesn't want to look at. So make sure you use a standard font size, standard font, and avoid using any tables, extra margins, borders, or colors in your resume. Next is including extracurricular activities. I already talked about this point, but still I want to mention this once again. Including extracurricular activities is a bonus. It is an extra, it's like, you're just giving them, hey, take a slice of my extracurricular life as well. To show that you are a well-rounded person, to show that you are a go-getter, that you're not just, confined to the academic realm, right? Next is to customize your resume to match your job description. So once you are applying for a company, when you're applying for a job, first thing you need to do is to read your job description. All right, I want you to pay close attention here. The first thing you need to do before even sending out your resume is to first read the job description for that role. The first time when you read it, you will have or you will find a lot of words which you are not familiar with, you do not know the meaning of. What you need to do is Google those names or Google those words, understand the meaning first. Okay. After that, the second time when you read it, you understand by, keeping in mind the meaning of all these words. And the third time when you read it, you will start to understand what the requirements of this job description is. One thing that often happens is that when the student or when someone reads the job description, they will have they'll get a picture of what is required and they'll just make the changes and send it. However, if you spend more time on your job description, the better it is. Why? Because you will gain clarity on what needs to be added into your resume. So always read your job description thoroughly. Pick out the keywords from your job description. I told you what are keywords. Keywords are short phrases or words that are used in the job description provided by your employer. You will pick out these words and add them to your resume in suitable places. I do not want you guys to lie in your resume. If you do not have these technical skills, you can completely skip that. But mention whatever skills you have in the resume. Okay. Now let's quickly look at the do's and don'ts of a resume. The first thing you need to do is, I've mentioned this point, that is to use an easy to read format. something that we all think, or some of us think, is that the more effort I put into the beautification of this resume, the better it is. But no, that is the sad truth. So no matter how much time you spend on, adjusting the borders, adding colors, and using all these fancy fonts, it is of no use. If you stick to the traditional or the professional way of writing a resume, then that is more than enough, which means including bullet points, using readable fonts, using font sizes wisely, etc. Next is to quantify the information to show your, or show the impact of what you have done. What do I mean by quantifying? It means to use numbers or percentages to show the impact of the activity or your work experience. An example for this is, let's say, instead of just saying worked on bringing clients in maybe for my company, you can just mention, instead of saying worked on clients, worked on bringing clients, you can say achieved a target of 35 subscribers or 35 clients in my company for so and so purpose. Another example is when I'm giving my work experience in the responsibility section, I can mention exceeded 25% more than of target, and successfully brought in so much revenue for the company, etc. So these are numbers which you are giving to convince your employer or to convince the person who is reading it. Right. Next is to highlight your most relevant experience using action-oriented statements. Now, what are action-oriented statements? Action-oriented statements are statements which just improves, or it just boosts the power of the sentence that you've just given. So instead of saying worked, you can say, or instead of saying managed, you can say delegated, administered. Okay, these are action-oriented words. We'll get into all of that when we type in our resume. Now look at the don'ts of a resume. First important mistake that you should not be making is using personal pronouns like I, we, us, they, etc. Okay. What are personal pronouns? Using I, words like I, me, you, we, us. For example, you cannot say we created this project or we built this project. I am an achiever. No, that is a big no. Do not use personal pronouns. If you want to create a professional resume, always avoid personal pronouns. Next is using fancy templates, fonts, borders, etc. We already talked about this point. The next point I really want to take some time to explain what it is. Do not use unprofessional email ID or email address. We all might have, a fancy username or fancy email ID that we created when we were young. For example, stark3000 at gmail.com. It just doesn't convey anything about my identity, right? It's just, it's a very, unprofessional sounding email address. It is extremely unprofessional to use email IDs like that when you are writing your resume. So if any one of you watching has an email ID which does not contain your name, I highly suggest you to create another email ID and then use that for your resume. Next is another important but it's an overlooked mistake, or an overlooked thing, that is making grammatical errors or spelling mistakes in your resume. This is something an employer cannot bear. Trust me. So if you send out a resume without proofreading it, without reading through it, chances are there might be a lot of mistakes in it. Grammatical mistakes I'm talking about. So always run your resume that you have through any software, maybe Grammarly or any other software, and get it checked. So you will have all these options where you can make changes and then only submit or send out your resumes. Okay. If you send out, or if I am an employer and if I receive a resume full of spelling mistakes, the first thought that comes to my mind will be, this person does not even know how to write the spelling correctly. So how am I gonna trust this person to do such a huge responsibility to take up this role, right? So never make this mistake. Always be extra careful when it comes to writing your resume and avoiding grammatical mistakes. So now let's build a resume together. You can find the link for the template for the resume. You can click on it and you can practice with me. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to look at two types of resumes. So first type is going to be for the experienced professionals or people who have work experience. And the second is going to be for freshers who are watching. So even if you do not have a lot of work experience, there are certain tips, strategies that we can use in order to fill our resume. All right, let me quickly share my screen. So I will be working on a Word document here. You will be having a Google Doc template in the description. So just check it out. All right. Now, let's first look at the example of the resume of an experienced person, right? So we have the first name, the contact section on the top. Now, this is a template. You just have to fill in information in the relevant field, right? So first, I'm just going to change my name here into Aisha and my last name. Right? Then I give my complete address. This must be the address of the place I'm residing. This should be the address of my home. It must include the state, the city, as well as the PIN code. All right. After that, you mention your phone number and your email. I told you, no fancy email IDs. Stick to a professional email ID with your name in it. So when an employer looks at your resume, when he reads the email ID, he must understand, oh, okay, this is an email ID of Aisha. All right. Now let's look at the second component of the resume, one of the most important, that is academic qualification. If you do not want it to be academic qualification, you can change it to education. Okay. I'm just going to keep it as education. Now, if my degree, let's say if my highest degree is a Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Science, that's how I will be mentioning it. All right. One more thing before I proceed or move on. Let me tell you a couple of things to keep in mind while writing your resume. Always follow the standard font size. Here, the font size is Times New Roman. You can see it from the left-hand side. If you follow my cursor, it is Times New Roman. The contact name, my full name will be in font size 14, and the rest of the information will be here. It is given 10. That is fine. It can be 10 or 11. I'm going to change it to 11 just for it to appear a little bit more bigger. Right. Now, the subsection or the subtopic education, it must be on font size 12. And the rest of the text can be 11. So the most high or the highest font size here is 14, followed by 12, and the normal text will be 11. And I am, if you can, look at the screen, I have highlighted or I have mentioned or I have given bold for some of the text here. For example, Bachelor of Engineering, BE, Computer Science, CS. So these are all in bold. And also you can find italics here. I'll get into that when we work on it. So just mentioning all of these things, avoid any kind of tables, borders when it comes to your education section. You do not want that. Nobody wants to see a lot of tables and colors. Now I'm mentioning my highest degree here. Here it is Bachelor of Engineering in Computer Science. Now what do I do after that? Now Bachelor of Engineering will be in bold, Computer Science will be in bold. Then I put a comma and then mention the name of the university in which I did my bachelor's. So I have given Don Bosco Institute of Technology. After you give the name of the university, put a comma again, write the name of the place where your university is situated in, then mention the university it is affiliated to. After that, you can mention the aggregate or the CGP. Right now, one tip for you: if you think your CGPA is not really up to the mark, you do not want to show it, it's fine. You do not have to mention. But if you think your CGPA is presentable, you think I want to show my CGPA, then this is where you can mention your CGPA. And also you can see May 2015. Now what is this? Earlier we saw that there was the section where the time period was mentioned as expected May and the year, right? So this is gonna be the year of completion of your course. Now, if I have completed my course in, let's say, March 2023, I'm gonna put March 2023, right? This is how information about your time period of your course should be mentioned. Now let's move on to the second section. I hope the education section is crystal clear to all of you. All right. Now let's look at the work experience section. Now we know this is the top half of your resume, very crucial. So put only the relevant and important details over here. So what is the work experience? What's given here? Software developer at SME Max, Mumbai. Now how are we arranging this information? I'm just gonna erase it and I'm gonna type it out once again. So put it in italics, the designation alone, the position that you are working in, put it alone in italics. So software developer followed by a comma. Then the rest should not be in italics. Okay, then let's say I'm gonna give ABC or XYZ company. And the place, let's say I'm just gonna give Mumbai, all right? And next to that or besides that, on the right side, I'm giving the time period for that particular work experience. So I have worked or I am still working there. So I started working there from July 2016, right, to present. If you are still working, you can mention present. If you have completed or if you changed your job or if you quit the job, you can mention the year of completion. I'm going to put December 2018. Okay. So that is one way to put it. If you're still working there, how will you put it? You will put it as present. You're still working there. You're currently working there. Now let us look at the important information. Now, before getting into the next part, there is something I want to show you. That is your job description. We learned that we need to first read the job description, right? How else are we going to fill in our responsibility section or our work experience section? So let's all read this together and get an idea of what the requirement for this job is. So you can see the highlighted section here. These are some of the key words I've highlighted after going through this. Let me just go through it once again. So the role is for a full stack developer, right? To produce scalable software solutions. You'll be part of a cross-functional team that's responsible for software development lifecycle from conception to deployment. Okay. And this is something you need to note, from conception to deployment. Now, as a full stack developer, you should be comfortable around. Now, this is the first requirement. You should be comfortable around front end and back end coding languages. Now, what comes under these? It includes, languages like JS, React, Node.js, Express.js. All these come under front end and back end coding languages. Then you need to have developmental framework and third party libraries. You should also be a team player with a knack for visual design and utility. So one thing you will understand or one thing you need to remember when you go through this description is that all these keywords are meant for different subtopics. So for example, front end and back end coding languages, I can mention this in my work experience section under my responsibilities in bullet points, right? Whereas I cannot mention this in this the next one, a team player. I cannot mention that in the work experience section. Instead, I can mention this under my skills section, right? Similarly, if you look at knack for visual design and utility, I can mention this in two ways. One is in work experience section by proving or by mentioning that I have created or I have designed certain things, that can lead to this, as well as you can mention this in your skills section. Now, what are the responsibilities? Now, this is what we are looking for when we are creating the work experience section. Work with development teams and product managers to ideate software solutions. Now, if you do not know what the word ideate means, what we should do is go check it out. Go look up the word, understand what the word ideate means. So it means to form an idea, right? To form an idea of software solutions. So that is one requirement, or that is something that will be your responsibility. Design client-side and server-side architecture, manage well-functioning databases. Now, these are the key responsibilities that I've just highlighted to just show you guys how to use it. Now, let's practice using these keywords into our resume. So let's take troubleshoot, debug, and upgrade software. This is one responsibility, right? So if I have done something similar in my job responsibility or in my current job, what I can do is worked on debugging and troubleshooting for whatever it is for you have done that, and maybe in dash. This is for you to fill out. I do not know what I have debugged or troubleshoot, but this is for you to fill out. You need to sit down, understand, look at the responsibilities you have in your work, and then fill it out. This is just an example. So I'm just highlighting it to show that this is a keyword we have taken from our resume, from our job description. Right, I have just highlighted that. Now let's go back and check another one. Manage well-functioning databases or write effective APIs. If that is something I want to put in, I can put that here. I'll take write effective APIs. Yeah, if I want to put write effective APIs, I can mention that I have completed so and so task, and I have written technical documentation and used APIs in so and so software or in so and so activities. Right? That is one way you can use your keywords from your job description. Let's say I have worked as a software developer in another company again. Now look at this. You can see the timeline is different, right? So this was before July 2016. This was from May 2016 to July 2016. Again, let me show you how the message is delivered here. Instead of saying created or built, the person has used developed. So this is what I mean by keywords, or this is what I mean by action-oriented words. Developed. When you just hear the word developed, you just get a broader picture about what the person has done. Right? Involved in the complete life cycle. Interacted with the client. So let me just go back to the job description. Let's continue reading it, because there are pretty minute details that have been mentioned in the other resume, which are in this job description. So let's look at this. Test software to ensure responsiveness and efficiency. Create security and protection settings. Write technical documentation. Let's go to the requirements and skills. Here you can see experience developing desktops and mobile applications. Familiarity with common stacks. Now, if you're someone from the IT background, you will know what this is. So if you do not know, first look it up and understand what it means. Next is knowledge of multiple front-end languages and libraries. Knowledge of multiple back-end languages. So these are the languages. I will be using these keywords at a later point in my resume. That is why I'm showing this. All right, now let's go back to the resume again. Now, involved in the complete life cycle of the product. Does this ring any bell? Did you see this somewhere else? I saw this in the job description. So let's go up. Yeah, you can see will be part of a cross-functional team that is responsible for the full software development life cycle. So again, this is something that is taken from the job description. So I'm going to just highlight that in the resume just to give you an idea of how it is used, how keywords are used in a resume. Life cycle of the product. All right. Okay, I hope the work experience section is clear. You need to use action-oriented words, one thing. Second thing, organize the details in bullet points. All right, organize all the details in bullet points. Third thing is make use of keyword from the job description and mention the time period. So, what is the order when you write your work experience? Your job position first, comma, the company's name, comma, the place in which the company is, and beside or right side of that, you will give your time period or the time you have worked there from so date, from so and so date. Let's say you do not have any work experience. You just, graduated, but you have done an internship. What you can do is write the internship in the same format of a work experience. So your internship is basically you're doing a job itself, kind of like a job. So let's say I'm just gonna give another point here. I'm gonna include my internship. I'm gonna put data analyst intern. Data analyst intern, comma, name of the company, right? ABC company, I'm just taking it as an example, ABC company, and the place, I'm going to give Kerala. So there are two things I need to keep in mind here. What was it? First thing is to bold the section and make this in italics. Yeah. And then give a comma here. Right. Now, data analyst intern is in italics and bold, and the rest are in normal text but in bold. Now, what can I do? I'm just going to add a bullet point here. Let me just align it real quick. All right. Now, what do I add in the work experience section here? Okay, I'm going to add work on, or instead of worked on, I think work is a very generic term. I'm going to use performed. Performed operational activities in so and so fields, in so and so technologies or areas. I'm just gonna give it as a blank so that you guys can fill it up in dash and dash. Another point could be, if I'm working as a data analyst, I can give it as assisted in data mining and data visualization. For what activity? For what did I assist? Or whom did I assist? I'm going to leave it as a blank so that you guys can fill it up. Now coming to the next section, that is academic project section. This is an important section. You learn that this is also included in the top half, right? Right after the top half comes the academic project section. Here you can mention the thesis, any academic project, any project you have done in your university, your college. Okay. So if this is just an example that you can see on the screen, the title here is pick and place robotic arm. Duration is given here, team size and summary. So this is the format. This is the exact same format you need to follow, guys. If you do not know the format, just make note of this. Your academic project will always be in this format. Title, under that you put your duration. How long did you work? For how long did you work under this project? Then the team size. How many members were there in this project? And finally, summary. Now, summary should not be more than 2 sentences or 2 lines. So I'm just gonna leave a few information from this just so that it looks a little better. But right now I'm just deleting this information to make it look smaller, but you need to have all the information summarized in just 2 lines. All right. Next, you have the title again. This is for the next project. followed by the next project. So all these are the projects that you have done. Let's go down. These are additionals. Now we reach the second page of a resume. Ideally, a resume should be of one page. But if you have a lot of things to add, you can add that which are relevant. Now you can see publications. If you're someone who has authored or co-authored a book, you can mention that. Or if you have written an article or a paper, then that's really amazing to be put on a resume, right? So you can mention that here in the exact same format as you can see in the link that has been shared with you. So you have author, co-author, title of the paper or the book, published. Where was it published? Published in IE Explore Digital Library. This is an example. When was it published? November 2016. The volume number must be given. Version, page number. Okay. Coming to awards and achievements. What do you put under awards and achievements? So under awards, if you have received any awards in maybe your college for let's say you were brilliant, you were a brilliant coder, you have really good programming skills, and you were awarded the best coder for hackathon. You can mention that here. Now, how are awards different from achievements? Awards are something that is given to you because you are recognized, because you have a value and your value is recognized by the organization or your college. Whereas achievement is something that you have achieved on your own. Let's say you have achieved a target of so and so amount or so and so percentage. That is what is meant by achievement. Okay, so don't confuse or don't get confused between these two words. Coming to workshops, what are the workshops you have attended? Follow the exact same format. So if I have attended a workshop, there'll be a name for the workshop, right? So the name of the workshop, then conducted by who? Who conducted the workshop? Was it an organization? You can mention that here. Let me just give you a quick example of this. Attended the workshop on resume making conducted by EdYoda. And when was it conducted? You can put all of that. Held at the place, conducted on June 2022. Now, that's just an example that I just gave, all right? Now, all of these must be in the reverse chronology. Similar is the case with presentations, seminar conferences. Now, let's look at technical skills as well. Technical skills is the place where you mention the technical skills that the job description has provided. Let's go down and see the requirements here. You can see knowledge of multiple front-end languages and libraries. Example, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, XML, jQuery. So if I know all these technologies, I should be mentioning them here. Let me go and mention that here. Let me quickly do that. Yeah, it does JavaScript. Right, and if you have knowledge on C, C#, C++, you can mention that under languages. What are the web technologies you know? Database, graphics software. Now let's look at the last part of your resume, that is extracurricular activities. What comes under extracurricular activities? Whatever you have done that is not related to your subject, that is not related to your academics. All right. So here an example for extracurricular is co-organize the national conference on recent trends. Title held at the college and the time, when, the date, 2014. Another example I can give you is participated in the beach cleaning drive. This is just an example. You can think of whatever examples you have and you can mention that here. Conducted by. Who conducted it? An organization. Rotaract Club of Manipal. Where was it held? Held at Manipal. Then you can mention the time period. When was it held? May 2023. Right? This is one way in which you can write right? Your extracurricular. So it should not be something that is very, common. So you cannot just mention singing, dancing, playing chess. All these are hobbies, and that is different. And you can mention your hobbies here, but extracurricular activities show a little more about the kind of activities you've done, and it is very specific. You can see you mentioned the time period where it was held and all these details, right? So when you're just mentioning your hobbies, it just doesn't add a lot of impact like extracurricular activities. Now let me quickly show you how to make a resume for the fresher. It's very simple. I'm just going to make a few changes to the same document. If I'm a fresher, I do not have work experience. First thing I need to do is remove the work experience section. I've seen people who actually write fresher here instead of just leaving it blank. So what people used to do is that under work experience section they just write fresher. Why? You do not have to do that. All right, so you can completely remove this part. But if you have internship experience or if you have done some summer jobs, you can mention that here. All right. So in this case, I'm not mentioning anything because I'm just doing a resume of a fresher with no experience. All right, I'm just removing all this. One thing I can add under education is relevant coursework, so that I know there is something to read and my resume will not look blank. Relevant coursework, and I can mention whatever courses, other courses I've opted, modules I've opted. I'm going to give MySQL, Power BI. All right. All right. So this is the relevant coursework. Now, I told you before, academic project section is the place where freshers like us can shine. So here I can give a detail, I can give a very spectacular, experience of my project. So I can mention the details of my project in the exact same format: title, duration, team size, and summary. Okay. If you do not have, let's say 3 projects that you've done, if you have only one, that's fine. But make sure that it has, at least this much size, or it is like this long. So I'm going to delete the rest too, in case there's anyone with one project. Now, you do not have to mention publications if you do not have publications. Remove that. But awards and achievements is important. We do not have a lot of content since we do not have work experience, right? So that is why awards and achievements is important. So brainstorm, think of all the achievements, think of all the things you have done in your course, in your college, which was part of your curriculum. Think if you have any achievements or awards. If you still do not have it, it's fine. And if you think you have awards or achievements which is not based or related to your subject, you can still add them here because we do not have anything else to add here, right? So in that case, you can mention your awards here. Then workshops. This is also another important thing you should not skip if you are a fresher. This is another way of adding, some content to your resume. You can combine your presentations and workshops together. So I'm just going to combine them. Workshops. I'm going to add workshops and presentations. All right. Now I've combined them, and this must be the ideal length or ideal size for all the information you put. So you will have workshops and presentations that you've attended. Just go back, think of all the classes where you had to attend a workshop or a presentation which was part of your course. You might have attended as a class itself, right? So think of all of that before writing your resume. Now coming down, seminars, conferences. Not important, but you can still add them or you can mention them under workshops and presentations. So I'm just removing that. Next is your technical skills. This is an important part. You cannot afford to miss this. You can also add another segment titled non-technical skills. Non-technical skills. So that you have enough content to put in your resume. Now, what do you mention under technical skills? All the technologies, all the databases, softwares, and languages that you are familiar with. Under non-technical skills, what you can mention is skills that you are really good at, which means your interpersonal skills or your soft skills. You can mention communication skills. You can mention decision making. Um, what else can you mention? You can mention leadership. And one more thing, go back to the job description. There is a mention of few skills here, which is communication. Then we have teamwork, great attention to detail, organizational skill, analytical mind. So I'm just gonna pick a few of them. I'm gonna pick organizational skill and teamwork or teamwork. Leadership, teamwork, engineering skills here, and organizational. Right? Now, once I do that, I can go to the next section, that is extracurriculars. You cannot miss this section because this is something that speaks about ourselves, right? So here, this is another opportunity for you to, present your personality. What kind of a person you are? Are you, a very, a society-oriented person? Are you very generous? What kind of a person are you? How many drives have you volunteered in? How many events have you attended? All of that can be mentioned under extracurricular activities. You cannot mention, singing, dancing, all of that. That is like that just brings down the value of your resume. Let's just be really professional and try to stick to anything that is relevant to the position that you're applying for or your background. If I'm from CS background, if I'm from computer science background, then I need to, showcase my skills that are relevant to that background, right? That is how I can strengthen or I can boost my personality or my profile, right? So another important thing, if you're a fresher, reduce the size or reduce your resume to one page format, right? So this is the one page format. This is the ideal size for your resume. And if you have anything else to add, just go through it. You can refine it. So this is your first draft, right, guys? This is your first draft. Now, after this, just go through the job description once again. You don't have a lot of time to go through the job description and then make changes further. But I want you guys to go through the job description and make changes accordingly. Refine this copy, make several iterations, and then run it through Grammarly and see if you are, if you have completed your entire resume, if you think it looks good. All right. That is one way in which you can be sure of that your resume is the best. I hope you guys understood how to create the resume, how to perfect it, and what are the steps you need to follow. Remember, education followed by academics, work experience, technical skills. Final section will be your extracurriculars. The top section will be education and the bottom section will be extracurriculars. Just letting you know once again. All right. I hope you guys understood something from this live session. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. And yeah, that's it from my side. My name was Aisha. And if you guys haven't checked out our post library, just head to www.edyoda.com where you can find 150 plus courses that are related or that are job relevant. And you can find 20,000 plus uh, content videos where you can learn a lot of skills at just rupees 99. How cool is that? Are you curious? Just head to the www.edyoda.com link, which is in the description box. Also, let us know if you liked this workshop by commenting on it. Give a like, share it with friends if you found it useful, or share it with anyone who is preparing their resume for their jobs. So I hope you enjoyed this session and let us know what you think about it and let us know what topic you want next for our workshop. So this is me, Aisha, signing out. Bye bye.